Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I just wanted to mention a couple housekeeping items. Today's webinar is not for CEU credits. It is for informational purposes only. If you have any questions during the session, please type them in the question box and we will answer them at the end. Today, I would like to thank and welcome the DMV employees who are here with us to talk about the new restrictions and rules with as it has to do with funeral vehicles. I'd like to welcome Rebecca Wood, Roseanne Kitchener, John Irving, and Dan Weisenbach. And I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Kelly, and thanks everyone for joining us today. The purpose of this webinar from our perspective is to provide a resource and an avenue for you all to understand and ask questions where needed about DMV's posture with respect to certain vehicles that I'm sure a lot of you have and use. Dan will get into this more, but the department, we've really thrown all our weight behind making sure that stretch limos, such as the ones that have been involved in recent crashes, are properly registered appropriately on the road with respect to insurance requirements. We want to make sure that drivers are properly licensed when operating them. And we have gotten a lot of questions, and we wanted to take this opportunity to first explain things and then see where we might need to clarify certain questions or make sure that our guidance and our regulations are as clear as they can be. So, you know, we have as an agency taken a very aggressive enforcement posture with respect to people that are intentionally misrepresenting either seating capacity or what kind of vehicle they are registering. Now, there's a big difference between intentional misrepresentation and misinterpretation. And the way the law is written, it's possible that there are, valid misinterpretations. We are not trying to be punitive with respect to those situations at all, and wanted to set up this webinar to see if we could answer some, common questions or issues that we've seen. So that's really why we wanted to speak to you all. I'm going to hand it off now to the experts at DMV. We look forward to answering questions, and where it's a novel question or something that we need to take back, we will do that, and we will certainly get back to you as soon as we can. So I think this will be a learning experience for us as well. And, we look forward to working with you on this important issue. So I'm going to turn it over to Roseanne, John, and Dan. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Weisenbach. I work for the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles, Division of Vehicle Safety and Clean Air. And we're going to kind of do a brief overview of, what the DMV rules mean with your funeral industry and the vehicles that you operate within that. So to start, what is an altered vehicle? It's a vehicle that's been lengthened or widened to increase seating capacity beyond that provided by the original manufacturer by way of an extended chassis or a lengthened wheelbase. So it's a vehicle that's commonly referred to as a stretch limousine. What is not considered an altered vehicle? Hearses are not considered altered vehicles, given that they are not extended to increase seating capacity. Minibuses are not considered altered, handicap accessible vehicles, or vans that have just simply had a rearranged seating configuration. So as a result of the July 18th, 2015 Long Island and the October 6, 2018 Schoharie limo crash, numerous New York State transportation and vehicle and traffic laws regarding limousines have been created. These laws govern the operation of these vehicles, registration requirements, inspection requirements, insurance requirements, safety equipment, driver's license requirements, and enforcement actions against these vehicles or their operators. What you need to know. So to have these vehicles in compliance, one of the key things is the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law, Section 401, 22, and 23 dictates that all altered vehicles must be equipped with an altered label in compliance with 49 CFR, which is the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 567. The first law, 401.22, says we will not register a vehicle unless we have proof that it is in compliance with that regulation. And 401.23 states that if a vehicle is already registered, it shall have its registration revoked if it's found to not be in compliance with that regulation. Although the federal regulation dictates the information that's required to be on the label, it doesn't specify a format. So therefore, many of these labels will look quite different from one another. And here are just some examples of different, these are all legitimate federal alterers labels, but very obviously much different in appearance. This label is required to be affixed to the driver's door or doorpost area of your vehicle. Currently, registration transactions are required to be done in person in a DMV office. You are no longer able to do an online renewal or even a mail-in renewal as it used to be. In the near future, all altered vehicles bearing passenger plates will be required to be mailed to the central office for processing. That will include original applications and renewals. So when you do visit a DMV office to either register or renew a registration, the following things are what you're going to need to provide. A properly completed Form MV82, which is your registration and title application. Paying very close attention to the first question on the form, which asks, is this vehicle being used for personal use? Then paying particular attention to the questions in Section 2 of the form, which includes the proper seating capacity, which includes the driver, selecting the proper body type. If it is an altered vehicle or a limousine, that it's going to be a body type of limo. It's not going to be a four-door or a Suburban. And then there's 3 questions following that pertaining to altered vehicles, which I will get to. I'll show you an example of on the next slide. You will also need to provide proof of a compliant federal alterers label via a printed picture. So you're going to need to take a picture of that label we just discussed, print it out, and that will need to come with your completed MV82, along with proof of valid insurance for the indicated vehicle use, be it either personal or for hire. And in addition, if the vehicle has a seating capacity of 9 or more, including the driver, you must present proof of a current valid DOT inspection, which is Form MC300, or a DOT exemption letter in the registrant's name. So here's an example of the Form MV82. I've highlighted the fields that we just spoke about. So the very first question is the vehicle being registered only for personal use? Make sure that is answered. You'll see down below on the right-hand side the body type. Again, stretch limousine or altered vehicle is going to be a body type of limo. The adult seating capacity, make sure that is accurately represented, and that does include the driver. And then you'll see the 3 other questions. The first one, was this vehicle altered to increase the capacity beyond that provided by the manufacturer? If it's a stretch limousine, the answer to that question is yes. If you answer yes, it is going to tell you that you have to provide proof of that federal alterers label. And furthermore, due to new laws that went into effect within the last couple of years, it does require that there is a seat belt at every seating position within the vehicle, and you must attest to that. Seating capacity. When you're determining the seating capacity of this vehicle, it is determined by the number of people that the vehicle is capable of carrying. not the number you intend to carry. All altered vehicles having a seating capacity of 9 or more, including a driver, must obtain either a DOT semi-annual inspection or a DOT exemption letter. And the operator, the driver of any altered vehicle have a seating capacity of 9 or more, including the driver, must possess a Class CDLC driver's license with a passenger endorsement. And that's regardless of use. Whether you own this vehicle to take your kids for ice cream or you're operating in a for-hire limousine service, the driver's license requirement to operate it does not change. This is an example of basically the body of the letter that would be issued as a DOT exemption letter. It will have your registrant name or your business name. It'll go by your make, VIN of the vehicle, and it will indicate the seating capacity and the reason for the exemption. If it's operated outside of the reason issued for the exemption, you are in violation at that point. So this just goes to, just to reiterate, it is extremely important to represent the vehicle as accurately as possible to prevent any registration issues or possible driver infractions. Intentional misrepresentation or false statements on DMV applications will be aggressively enforced and will result in administrative and or criminal action. DMV as a whole has taken the proper registration, operation, inspection of altered vehicles very seriously. Registration records, new and old, for altered or suspected altered vehicles are continuously being reviewed. DMV has successfully revoked numerous vehicle registrations and driver's licenses, as well as filed several criminal charges against individuals that have fraudulently submitted DMV applications. Based upon the information we've provided today, please review all of your vehicle registrations and title documents to ensure that they're accurate. If any discrepancies are found, please make the appropriate corrections as soon as possible. This agency-wide enforcement activity is a direct result of extensive data mining, reporting, and investigations that have been developed, performed, and completed in an effort to try to ensure that if a limo is on the road, it's on the road legally. And that's all I have. So if there's any questions or comments, please let us know.
Thanks so much, Dan. Yes, if you have any questions or comments, we're going to pause a moment and give you a chance to type them in, as I know some of them could be long. So go ahead and type them in the question box at this time. Dan, is it possible for us to get a copy of these slides to hand out to participants?
Yes, I can get this over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think that would be helpful, as there was a lot of information there that we might need handy.
And Kelly, this hopefully might answer some questions, but as far as the in-person, or I'm sorry, the mail registration requirement, we will communicate when that is in effect. We're kind of finalizing process and flows for that right now, but we do think that will help a lot. It might, we might need people to just build in a little bit more time to that process, but we're looking forward to being able to really efficiently process those registrations and those renewals by experts in this documentation as soon as we can. So we'll communicate that time frame once we know more.
Great. Thank you so much. So the questions are coming in, so I will go through them now. The letter that you showed that was dated April 5th, who writes that letter?
So this would be the Department of Transportation, DOT. Once an altered vehicle hits 9 seats, it becomes possibly under their purview. So you would contact them. They would determine whether it requires their operating authority. If they determine that it does not, this is the result of that. They will issue a letter exempting them from DOT's authority.
Dan, do we have information on how they would contact DOT?
I can provide a contact phone number, yes.
So Kelly, we'll send you some information on how to contact DOT with the slideshow.
Great. So just to reiterate, when someone registers a limo that has a cap of 8, including the driver, they will need to go to DMV in person.
Correct.
Okay. Is it a correct assumption that standard limousines typically used for funerals would not fall under the altered status category?
No. The use of the vehicle has no bearing on whether it is considered a stretch limousine or an altered vehicle. It is determined by the structure and the build of the vehicle.
Okay, and we just had a comment from a funeral director that experienced a very bad wait registering a limo. She said it took 2 days plus 5 hours each day sitting in DMV. Just providing that feedback.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you. Go ahead.
You go ahead, Rebecca.
I was going to say, if there are specific examples of that, to please let us know. We do send out reminders, and we have, similar sessions with the motor vehicle representatives that are in the offices at the counter. And some, as many of you might know, most of the motor vehicle offices upstate are actually run by the county clerks of their respective counties. So we can also have conversations with them if there are particular issues with processing of these registrations, or any issues like that. Any examples are helpful.
Great. There are some funeral homes using Sprinter vans, which carry more than 9 people. Are the rules for them the same as for the funeral livery companies?
It is not. It is a different seating capacity before that falls under DOT's authority. I guess my recommendation would be if they have concerns of that, to reach out to DOT with those questions. And again, we'll provide that.
Okay, and then you're going to give us the contact information for that, so that'll be extremely helpful. Is there a funeral home using, if there is a funeral home using a limo for their own funeral home use, for funerals only, is there any need to contact DOT? I'm a little confused on this. And someone's saying that they have gone through this process with DOT and they were very helpful. So you have that. Can you show us again the MV82 form?
Yes.
And then can you clarify the driver's license qualifications?
So if an altered vehicle or stretch limousine is being operated for any use, and it has a seating capacity of 9 or greater, including the driver, they are required to have a CDL Class C with a passenger endorsement. CDL obviously being commercial driver's license, Class C with a passenger endorsement.
Is an 8-passenger limo for funeral home considered personal use or for hire?
So this is a question we get a lot, and anyone feel free to jump in here as well. That even if it's indirect, it would be considered for hire. We're happy to talk through though examples of how the use of the vehicle is compensated, but in general, these can be fact-specific questions, but in general, we believe that it is for hire, even if it is a indirect commercial or compensatory use of the vehicle.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. So that looks like all the questions have been answered. So I appreciate your information, and thank you so much for sharing the slides and the information on how to contact DOT. And again, if anybody has any questions, in the meantime, you can contact me. I can get you in touch with Rebecca or any of the panelists. So thank you so much for presenting to us today and answering questions. And do you have any closing words for us?
No, we really, yes, go ahead, Dan, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
We appreciate the time. I'm sorry, I'm in a different room here at a conference, but we really appreciate the time. If anything comes up in the future, we would like to be a resource. We don't want anyone to have, any adverse consequence or any revocations happening. Our goal is really to prevent that. And we want to, maintain a dialogue and answer any questions that come up in the future. So please feel free to send them, and we will get you answers as soon as we can. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, it was much more elegant and but the same sentiment.
Can I just clarify something really quick while we're on the phone? Can you tell me what date this changed from when they were exempt, but now they're not exempt from the DOT?
So there's a couple different things. The seating capacity, at which point DOT's authority was involved, did change. I want to say it was February of 21. It went from 11 down to 9. But other than that, DOT would always have had authority, or should have, at 11 or more, where they would have had to have been asked for an exemption letter or not. And then, like I said, a couple years ago, it went down to, I can get the exact dates if that's helpful at all, but it changed to 9 or less, and that is the current standard, and as far as I know, will remain that way.
Okay, so, and I have a couple more questions that came in, if you guys don't mind holding on for just one more minute. If the limo is owned by a funeral home to use on their own funerals, do they need a DOT inspection?
It's not based on the usage. It is based on the seating capacity of the vehicle. So if it has 9 or more, then they have to contact DOT, and DOT will determine either yes, it is under their authority, and then it'll get their inspection, or no, the use does not qualify for their authority, at which point an exemption letter will be issued.
And so even if you do have an 8-passenger limo, do you still have to register it in person?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, great. Well, thank you guys so much again. And anyone has questions, you can reach back out to us, and we will get you all the information. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you
too. Thank you.